Remember when John Wayne had to do what a man had to do? Or when Arnie would let you know he would be back? Or when Sly inspired you to keep going no matter how hard life hit? Or when Patrick Swayze reminded you to be nice until it was time to not be nice? Well, with toxic masculinity on its way to being a punishable crime by a totalitarian Marxist, I mean peaceful, diverse, brave activists fighting to protect you from yourselves, it's looking like awesome badass heroes are sadly on the way out in today's movies, even though most of us want more of these beautiful bastards. But there's one that came out of nowhere this year and has become a surprisingly, not so surprisingly, success, and that is none other than the World War II action gore-fest Sisu. The movie starts in Finland, 1944, with the war on its way to a very bloody end and the Germans facing a devastating defeat. Meanwhile, an ex-soldier turned prospector named Kopi is spending his days digging for gold. Thankfully, he succeeds. While on the way to cash in his findings, some Nazi bastards try to nick it. Kopi politely convinces them not to persist. Obersturmführer Bruno Heldorf hears the politeness and decides to offer his brand of politeness to Kopi in the hopes of borrowing his gold without asking. Now Kopi is pursued and he must outsmart Bruno and his men from borrowing his gold without asking, no matter what. God damn, it's been a while since I've seen a movie this badass. It unashamedly takes a simple premise and throws in everything but an explosive kitchen sink taped to a T-Rex's balls. Dal Helander, who wrote and directed this Bloodfest, might be my new favourite filmmaker, as he does what many filmmakers fail to do these days, and that is show, not tell. He cleverly uses the desolate land and devastated homes in the middle of nowhere to its advantage, giving a real sense of isolation in the environment as the game of cat and mouse Bruno and his army play with Kopi turns more and more hostile as well as gory. Joma Tamilis convinces us Kopi, an unstoppable force of nature, never quitting, refusing to die, no matter what gets thrown at him. He's a determined, hardened killer who's been through hell and back, and he looks it. And the show not tell approach from Helander brings both complexity and mystery to the main character, without his character ever saying a word until the very end. Sadly, he does lose his mystique after the Germans discover who he is, and the scene itself feels more like an exposition dump. In my opinion, if it was left out or was trimmed down in an effort to be more vague, it probably would have been more powerful. It was the little hints we saw earlier, like the scars on his body, wedding ring on his finger, and the companionship with his horse, his dog, and later the female prisoners, that said more about him than dialogue ever could. But thankfully, it doesn't take away everything that makes the character awesome. Jack Doolan brings a genuine creep factor as Wolf. Mimosa Willamore as Eno does a decent job despite her limited screen time. Askell Henny is convincing as ruthless commanding officer Bruno Heldorf, weary and beaten by the war itself and becoming more aggressive through his determination to put an end to Kopi and steal his gold. The action is fun, creative and yes, gory, absolutely gory. I forgot to mention earlier, but it's fucking gory, and I got to love how despite having a smaller budget, the CGI still looks more convincing than the sludge rushed out by the major studios like Disney and Warner Brothers. Yeah, there were times it looked fake, but thankfully, it was still passable. It's an insane, darkly funny, hyper-realistic, action-packed piece of historic blood-soaked fiction that remembers to respect and entertain its audience, and if Hollywood had any sense, it should take a leaf out of Helander's book. And whether you beautiful bastards are Northern English or not, thanks for watching, and do remember to like and subscribe. But for now, that's me done, and I'm off to the pub.